Welcome, welcome, welcome. I can't believe it's a new month. It's April 1st, April Fool's Day. And we just got back from an amazing rewards trip to Mauritius. And as I was saying pre-recording, I never knew where Mauritius was until about 12 years ago. But it's a little dot in the middle of the Indian Ocean. And it was a rewards trip for the leaders, primarily in South Africa, who are on fire. They're putting the rest of the world to shame. People hitting 20K, premier 100K in a matter of a few months. One person emailed me after the trip, of course, to thank us for being there and all of that. But she said, I went to Mauritius as a 20K and came home a week later as a 40K. Now, how do people do this when the majority of them are doing it without technology, without webinars? They're doing it in their garages with no air conditioning, with a whiteboard. How is it possible? Well, today we're going to share a little bit about why you're here, and I have to commend you if you are live and present. And yes, listening to the recording is great, but there's nothing like being there live and showing up. There seems to be a different energy when you arrive and are present. But the reality is, if you're on this call or you're listening to the recording, it's because you're looking for change. And that could be different for each one of us because we all have a story. Everyone is where they are today, but many of us would rather be somewhere else. So where is it that you are compared to where you really, really would prefer to be? So what is your story? This is important. You know, it's interesting. Probably 16 years ago, I did tell my story. And for those of you who don't know, I will go into it in a little bit. But a friend of mine who was extremely wealthy, she said to me, Sandy, don't tell people you had so much and then you lost it all. Don't tell them that. You know, her theory was fake it till you make it again. And so I did. I changed telling my story, and I was not effective. There was no resonance between those that I was speaking to and moving forward in our relationship. So I went back to telling our real story. And we all, in most cases, have pain. And if you have pain today, what are you looking for? The opposite, which is pleasure. There's a book by Dr. Scott Peck called The Road Less Traveled. And someone gave me that book about 23 years ago. And the first 3 words in the book is life is difficult. I didn't know that. I really didn't. I mean, you know, I married my childhood sweetheart, and yeah, we had some struggles, but no real pain. You know, the biggest dilemma we had back in those days was, you know, where do we go for dinner on a Saturday night, or what disco are we going to go to practice all our disco lessons? But we didn't have real pain till later in life. So, you know, it's like if you don't experience any pain, how in the world do you know what others are feeling? So why is timing right for you to want change? I mean, this is the big question. And these are questions that I ask everyone that tells me they're looking for change, from where they are to where they want to be. And I ask these questions, and you should write them down. And if you're not in a place, if you're driving, you can always watch the recording and get it there. But one of the first, and if you do a 3-way with me, you'll always hear me ask these same questions. I'm like a robot. Why is timing right for you to want change now? Not next year or 5 years from now, but why is timing right for you to want change now? And then they'll tell you, they'll share with you, they'll open up from the deepest place of their emotions. And then you have to ask, what changes do you want? What is it specifically that you want different? And why do you want that change? This is critical. And how would you feel if you could accomplish what you want? What would that feel like? Those of you who are on this call who've done, we did almost about 18 months of training with Brian Tracy, who's one of my favorites, because he really goes into our subconscious mind. It's like when we breathe, we don't think about breathing. It just happens. Well, Brian Tracy goes into the depth, the deep, dark depth of our subconscious mind that we're not even aware of, that determines where we are and where we're going. And feelings is so important. It's based on thoughts or things, but that's not enough. It's how you're feeling about those thoughts. And on our website that we launched a few months ago, sandyanded.com, absolutely free, are all the tools that share with anyone who visits that site how we went from $450,000 in debt to financial peace of mind. So feeling, and there's a book on there by Esther and Jerry Hicks, called Ask and It Is Given. If you've never read that book, now is your time to read it. And the book is there absolutely free as a download. But feeling about how you're going to feel when you get what you want. Dream a little bit. Really, really use those emotions. And the big question is, because everybody's time starved between, family and church and work, and maybe you do charitable things, how do you find the time to find 7 to 10 hours a week part-time to legally take advantage of all the tax advantages and build the change that you want? So these are really, really important questions to ask your potential partners. Now, what's really interesting, and life is a series of coincidences, and I'm not sure they're really coincidences as much as if you have the right mindset that you're always open to prosperity. You don't let those negative feelings enter your space. Just this year, Eddie and I volunteered through our synagogue to give back an hour a week to what they call a Dorot program, which means friendly visitors, that we go to senior citizens who are elderly. When I say elderly, actually older than Steve Hall or Eddie and I, but we're talking about people in their 80s, 90s, and beyond, who are pretty much homebound. And it's a service that we volunteer. And last night at the synagogue, there was a guest rabbi visiting, ironically, from Philadelphia. Now, I don't mix religion with business, ever. But this was so moving for me because it was like he was talking to me and Ed. He was talking to all of us on this call this morning. And it was interesting how he said, we have 2 wild cards in life. 2 wild cards. They are health and money. Isn't that interesting? 2 wild cards, health and money. And today, he said, compared to our parents, we are going to live an extra 20 to 30 years. People are living till their 90s, their early hundreds. And he says, if you lose one of these wild cards, which are what? Health or money or both, you have a huge problem. Isn't that interesting? So he said you have to ask yourself 3 questions. 3 questions that are all that matters. Number 1, why were you born? Why are you here? Another second question is, why must I die? Why must I die? And the third question is, why am I here? Do you have a reason for actually being born? And he really shared the message. It's not about material things. That's not the priority. We need to have faith, and we all should have faith in some higher being. But he really emphasized the fact that as you get older, and he was talking about people in their 50s, their 60s, their 80s, you should never stop growing. And he indicated that by learning. Always be learning. Now, we always say that successful people are readers. Leaders are readers. And he believes that if you are not constantly learning something new, you will die. There is no age to stop evolving and to stop learning. And he closed with, go forth with the rest of your life. That could take courage. Move to the next stage. Scary, but it must be done. So how many of you on this call, or maybe you're talking to others who are scared, who are in a place in their life where they want to move to the next stage? So what's important to you? What's important to them? And if we are given the gift to become older, to live longer, and with our Xango juice, if you take that consistently, I mean, just look at the science. There is no other botanical on this planet that has the kind of hard science that our beloved mangosteen fruit has. And we've got a unique advantage with a patented product that no one else has. So we have choices. We have choices to lead by example. So what's going to be your legacy? What is your legacy that you're going to lead to the next generation? What is the legacy you're going to leave to your children, to your grandchildren? And he stated, we are seeking to impact those who come after us. Now tell me, does that relate to who we are in Xango? Does that relate to who we want to be, who we want to impact? So just know when you're having conversations with people, like I had a three-way call with Joe the other day, these are the questions that I asked of her potential partner. Because if we come from a place of service to wanting to make a difference, because that's what we do. It's not just making a difference in our health, which is one of the two wild cards, right? Health and wealth. But, wealth is a relative term. It means what's important to you. For us, when we lost everything, all I wanted was what we call peace of mind. All we wanted was to be able to pay our bills and maybe have a little bit extra to go to the movies on a Saturday night and buy popcorn. We weren't looking for, tremendous wealth. So now I'm going to share a little bit about our story. And if you don't have a story yet, borrow someone else's, for goodness sakes. There's plenty of them out there. But most people can't even relate to what Eddie and I had in our early days. The absolute abundance we were blessed. I mean, we worked hard, but, we were rewarded. We were maybe a little lucky, but most people don't know what we looked like a long, long time ago. Actually, Eddie and I are going to celebrate our 56th wedding anniversary this September. I can't believe it. To the same guy. It's just an absolute amazing. And that's me with, if you remember, if you're old enough to remember the old beehive days, wasn't he a handsome hunk, my honey? But anyway, we were childhood sweethearts, and we actually still like each other today, which is amazing. And we're going to share with you our story. Now, this photo I love. We were on the first premiere trip to Thailand, the Sweet 16 trip. And if you notice closely, I'm actually wearing a man's blue T-shirt, and I've got a towel wrapped around me because we took a water rafting ride. And in Phuket, Thailand, I missed the memo. I missed the announcement that we would get wet. And I was wearing this stunning outfit to go trekking through the woods. And the raft leaked, and we were, up to our waist in water. And so I had to I took off the wet clothes, obviously. Some guy gave me his shirt. I don't remember who it was. And I wrapped a towel around the rest of me, and that's how we took our elephant ride after the rafting ride down this river that was filled with snakes. But anyway, this was our life before Xango, many years before Xango. We had a stretch limo, we had a Rolls Royce, we had a 10,000 square foot home. I was living the dream. Never thought it would go away. But as Dr. Peck says in his book, The Road Less Traveled, sometimes life hits us a curve. And we sold our businesses to a group of private investors who defaulted and didn't pay us. And so began an 8-year nightmare in the court system. And if you know anybody who has ever been in a court battle, the only winners typically are the attorneys. And this next slide, I'm not going to play for you because a video with voice won't play on a webinar. Let's see if it will, but I don't think it will.
Of 1992. A time that we'll never forget because that may have been the bottom. We couldn't afford anything but hot dogs and baked beans.
Now, I don't know if you could see it or hear it, but that was my honey. And Xango flew to Arizona once we moved there and started having success in Xango to film our story. And for about 2 years, I could not watch that DVD without breaking down crying. But that's how bad it was in 1992. It was Thanksgiving, and it was devastating. And there's a whole long story that took us to Arizona. But we went from abundance to sharing a 9-year-old car in Arizona with no air conditioning when it was 110 in the shade, living in a little apartment. And before it got better, obviously, it got worse. And my mother took sick with breast cancer and Alzheimer's, and vowed I'd never put a parent in a nursing home. So we brought her from Florida to live with us so that I could be her caregiver 24/7, diapered, tube-fed, suctioned, and on oxygen. And I'd go to bed crying. I'd wake up crying. And the only reason they didn't shut off the electric was because she was on life support. But when I got to Arizona, someone gave me a name on a 3x5 card. I'll never forget it. And that name was Sandi Cohen. And I called her, and the rest of our life changed. But we had to go through 11 companies in network marketing because I needed to be a full-time caregiver. Going back to teaching school was not an option because even though we won in court, we were $450,000 in debt on a teacher's salary, and as a pharmacist salary, we would have never gotten out of debt. So we were looking so hard for a legacy company, a company that we could believe in, that we could trust, with products that had unique science. And we found Xango in November of 2002. And back in those days, we didn't have Facebook. We didn't have webinars. We had a fax machine. And, if you go back 15 years ago, how many people had a fax machine in their home? In fact, how many people have a fax machine in their home today? So I'd have to call people and say, call Kinko's, call Staples, call Office Max, get their fax number. I have a 14-page fax to send you. And this is the first 2 pages of the 14-page fax. Then they'd have to go get the fax and then call me back. This is how we built 14 and a half years ago. Now think about that. What if today you only had a 14-page fax? You didn't have videos. You didn't have websites. You didn't have Zoom. You didn't have Skype. Think about that. So where are you today? And, you know, people say, oh, Sandi, you know, you were an overnight success. Yeah, really? There's a new book that just launched, Peeking Behind the Scenes. My chapter title was Confessions of an Overnight Success. It took me 5 years, full-time, to be an overnight success. So that's why we love to teach and train. Why do you think we do that? We do that so you don't have to bang your head against the wall like we did for 5 years. If you just learn what leaders do and what leaders say, and then you become a robot. My dear friend who is now departed, Willie Jackson, used to call it R&D. Rob and duplicate. It works. Trust me, it works. So ask yourself this, and you need to ask yourself these questions and write down the answers. Just talking about it or thinking about it does not work. You must ink it. It's called ink it, pen to paper. Here's the first question. What do you want? Second question, why do you want it? This is probably even more important than what you want. Why do you want it? And thirdly, what are the consequences if you don't achieve it? What is your life going to be like if things stay the same? Is that what you really want? And the last and final question, and the biggie, what are you willing to do to get the job done? Because we're all time starved. None of us have any extra time. Does that mean disconnecting cable so you don't watch the reruns of Married with Children? You know, where are you going to carve out an extra hour a day? Are you going to get up an hour earlier, go to bed an hour later, you know, maybe work through your lunch hour? What are you willing to do to get the job done? And for us, we were just looking for peace of mind. We were looking for hope. Is there a way that we can go to sleep at night without worry? In fact, there's an exercise in the book, Ask and It Is Given, that you do before you go to bed at night. And Eddie and I do this exercise today, 23 years later. We still do it because it is so difficult to achieve holding, listen carefully, holding a positive thought for 30 to 60 seconds. It is so difficult to do that. But when you accomplish that, the world starts to change. So look where we are today. Someone said to me when we got back to Mauritius on Facebook, why would you ever leave your home when you live where you live? And the reality is, we visited Vegas, and it has to be probably 20 years ago when we were $450,000 in debt. And we stayed here for one overnight. Eddie had a great deal at the Westin Hotel. It was like $39 for the one night. And we took a walk because we always love to walk especially when we're in a new place. And we walked through the area, and there was a new housing development. Now, this was 20 years ago. And the houses then here in Lake Las Vegas were about $250,000. It could have been $250 million because we didn't have $250 extra even, yet alone the thoughts of buying a home here. And it was when they had the lake on the drawing board and all the communities were going to be coming. And Eddie and I looked at each other and we said, someday, remember the vision, the thoughts, the feelings. We said, boy, someday we want to live here. And sure enough, 10 years ago, before the real estate crash, bad timing, we should have waited a year. But anyway, we built our dream home here in Lake Las Vegas. So do thoughts become things? Absolutely. When you tie those positive, emotional, feelings to it. But I want to give you an idea of what my office looked like before Xango. Pretty cool. My very first own computer. I had to take computer classes. See the fax machine? Well, that's the printer. But we did have a fax. Maybe it was a printer fax. But I had my dream board up there. I knew then about a dream board. I had a calendar up there with all the events that I had to attend. But that was my office. Eddie's desk was on the other side of this 8x12 room. So it was a spare bedroom in our apartment that we each had desks. And this was my new desk that I had gotten. I think it was at Home Depot. It was on sale for $49. And Eddie's desk was 2 old file cabinets with a piece of melanite board on top, also from our favorite shopping place at that time was Home Depot. Now, this is my custom office with an imported French desk in California, built-ins. How far we've come. This over here, you can't see it, but photos of us with Senator John Heinz. We worked with Senator John Heinz on the Committee for Aging. But this is what Xango, with dreams and feelings, has been able to provide, from financial devastation to being able to travel all over the world. And the best part is Xango pays the bill. So these are just some of the places we've been. The first Sweet 16 trip to the Mangosteen Resort. We've been to Hawaii multiple times, to each island. We were blessed to be able to visit Wild Flavors in Heidelberg, Germany. Venice, oh my God, Venice. And from Venice, Polly Butler and us shared a villa in Positano for an extra week. The 500K trip to Paris. Oh my goodness, girls, you would have gone nuts for this one. The first night at dinner, Gary Hollister, Aaron Garrity walked around with an envelope. It was like being at a wedding or a bar mitzvah. And they gave every couple an envelope. And inside the envelope was $1,000 in cash, U.S., for shopping. And I came back from Paris with $1,000 worth of shoes. We had to get a suitcase to put the shoes in. And Carol O'Brien said to me, "Are you crazy? You can get better deals in Vegas." I said, "Yeah, but this is in Paris shoes, and it's not my money. It's Xango's money." So these are just some of the places. So be prepared to travel a lot when you're part of the Xango family. You know, it's interesting. When I talk to people, one of the questions I ask, if you had all the time and money in the world, what would you love to be able to do? And what do you think the very first answer is? In every case, travel. And then I say, you know, nothing is as sweet as traveling and having Xango pay the bill. Would you agree? So these are just some of the places we've been to that Xango has paid for. And, of course, in August, we're going to the brand new now Onyx Resort in Punta Cana in the Dominican Republic. Now, we were in the Dominican Republic probably 30 years ago, and we haven't been back since. But look at this resort. Oh, my goodness. Who is coming with us? Who is going to make sure they are qualified to let Xango take them to this first-class dream spot? Hopefully, you'll be there with us. So here's my question. And by the way, to check out the qualifications for these paradise trips, you know, in the early days of Xango, you had to become a premier with 50,000 in volume before you could benefit from these trips. Now, a brand new person starting tomorrow can win trips. All they need to do is accumulate a minimum of about $5,000 in new volume, and they can go on the trip. and you can still go on the trip even if you've been with Xango for 14 years. So I loved this movie, Pay It Forward, and I can't even remember if that was the name of the movie, now that I'm thinking about it. But yes, this is so true. Together, it takes a team to change the world, one good deed at a time, with 2 magic cards. What are the 2 magic cards? Health and wealth. And the third one would be what I call POM, peace of mind. But it all starts with each one of us who are going to pay it forward. And I hope this helps a little bit so that you pull out your dream board, start tearing out photographs from magazines, from newspapers, go online, print out what you want, because I promise you, you create that dream board and watch things magically happen as long as you tie it to income-producing activities. And the most important income-producing activity is what? Who knows? Put it in the chat box. What's the most important income-producing activity? Talking with other people. You should be having a minimum of 3 to 10 new conversations every single day. Not follow-up, Marilyn, not follow-up. Brand new conversations every single day, finding out where people are compared to where they want to be. So I just want to give you a little update. A gift from us is ready for pre-signups. In other words, we have a giveaway, literally a giveaway for getting your site now for only $5. We're adding enormous amounts of content, and stuff is being added every single day. But in the meantime, go get your site for only $5, and you will be grandfathered at that $5 price, regardless of when the official price, which we don't know what it is yet, depending upon the cost of the web guys. But your price at the $5 will never increase if you do it now. And my suggestion would be go to GoDaddy and get a URL and redirect your link. So my link is agiftfromus.com/rep/Sandi and Ed. Yours could be / instead of demo Stephen Cindy Hall. So go get your GoDaddy URL as well. Lock in that $5 price before the price goes up, because tied to the $5 includes our new huge university, myownxfactor.com. All of this will be included. As far as I know, there will not be a separate charge for all of this content. So you can go now and check out myownxfactor.com. Just take a look at all this information all in one place. So when you have a potential business partner or a potential customer, you've got one place to send them. Very, very, very easy to resource. And on Monday, by the way, on Monday, I will be hosting our Maximize Monday call, always at 6 o'clock Pacific time, 9 o'clock Eastern time. And our very special guest this week is the amazing Grace and Bob Dick. Oh, my goodness. One of the major talents, not just in Xango, I'm talking about in all of network marketing. So don't miss that call on Monday night. It's going to be spectacular. And I think I see one. Let me end the call right now. It's April 1st. I'm going to be sending out an email, the first of, because it's the first of the month. It's called 30 Days to Rewire Your Brain. And it's with Jim Rohn, and it's at our website, sandyanded.com. It's absolutely free, but part of your growth should be both personally and professionally. And trust me, if you subscribe to the Rewire Your Brain series, which means you will get an email with a video from Jim Rohn every day for 30 days. You will be a different person by the 1st of May. So who wants to improve both personal and professional growth within 30 days? So you must do this. Now, I think Charlie is asking if we record all these calls. Yes, we've been recording calls since the beginning of time. So at that website, my own xfactor.com are also all the recordings, as well as on our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Xango University. So let me see, there's a couple questions here, but let me end the recording now. This will be up probably no later than Monday morning at myownxfactor.com. So let's set ourselves on fire, guys, and do what needs to be done. So not only do you have a story to tell, but you're living the life that you deserve to live with the 2 wild cards that the rabbi talked about last night, which is health and wealth. God bless.